Hi everyone, this is Joy for Honeybee Stamps. I'm excited to share this card with you today because I have a few die-cut surprises on the inside. Now I'm starting by coloring this sweet little raccoon from the You've Stolen My Heart stamp set. It just has this sweet little raccoon and the sentiment that says You've Stolen My Heart. And so I'm coloring this little guy with some gray colors. I'm using some C colors for Copic markers, C4, 6, and 8, and I'm using that for the black parts of the raccoon. Then I'm using the W1, 3, 5, and 7. That is for the rest of his body, and it's kind of a warmer gray. When I was looking at some pictures on what exactly does a raccoon look like, where are all his little stripes and everything, they're kind of a brownish tannish gray. So these W colors work perfect for that. So I'm just laying down my light color, coming in with my darkest for some shadow and shading. Then I will come in with a medium color, blend that out just a little bit, and then coming back with the lightest color to blend all of the dark to the light together. I'll do this a couple times, usually till I get a really nice, really good blend where you still have some dark shadows and you still have some light areas. His belly is going to be W1 and 3. The rest of his body is W3, 5, and 7, with the exception of the black grays that I'm using, which is C4, 6, and 8. For the heart that I'm going to be coloring is RO5, 24, and 39. He's really a super, super cute guy. I'm also going to be coloring some bees. I did that off camera because it's super quick, but I used Y15 and 38 for the body, and then B0000 for the wings. That's just to give them a little bit of life so they're not just flat white, but it makes them look a little see-through. So when I finish coloring up this guy, I'm going to do the heart again. That is RO5, 24, and 39. I'm going to start with the lightest color of RO5, come in with the darkest. I think I started with R37 and changed it up to R39. I needed a little bit of a darker shadow on the outside, so I'm going to bring that in right here. And as you can see, that makes a huge difference. Then I'm going to use the coordinating die to cut this out. And then we're going to get to putting this background card together. It is so super cute. The surprise on the inside is really a lot of fun. I used some cloud dies and barnwood plank die to make a tree on the inside of this card. So that's going to be fun. So I'm die cutting the grass border. This is the grass border die. That is one of the planks from the barnwood planks. And then from the Wispy Clouds die, I'm just die cutting a ton of clouds. This is going to be the clusters of leaves on the tree. Of course, the barnwood plank will be the tree trunk. It has great detail, great wood grain embossing on it. And of course, then just the grass is going to be the grass. So I'm going to die cut those from white cardstock. And then I'm going to start putting this background together with some ink. So I have this piece of white cardstock. It is trimmed 1/8 of an inch smaller than a A2 size card. I'm using Broken China and Mermaid Lagoon to ink this up. I'm using Honeybee Stamps blender brushes. I'm only inking the top part. The bottom is going to have the grass, so that does not matter. This scene is going to be on the inside of the card instead of on the front of the card. Now for the grass, I am using Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn. This is going to have the stamped sentiment on it on the inside, so it's a little bit of a larger piece because it's kind of a larger sentiment. I'm going to come in and color the trees. I started off coloring them, inking them the same, but I came back in with Mowed Lawn a little bit later and just made them a little bit darker. I wanted to have a slight variance between the grass and the tree. I'm using Walnut stain for the tree trunk, and I'm going to trim this down to be a little bit smaller. Now here's the A2 size card base. I'm showing you that I'm going to die cut that raccoon in the front. We're only going to see the raccoon on the front of the card, even though he's going to be attached on the inside. So I am taking this card base that's going to be inside. I'm just centering it on the front because I want to line up where the raccoon is going to be. So I'm going to bring the grass in, get that where it should be. I'm going to tuck my raccoon in because he's going to be sitting in the grass just a little bit. Then I will add the die cut around him. Once I get him centered in that card panel, I want to make sure that he's not off to one side or the other. So making sure that he's centered. Then I'm going to add my die cut, the little raccoon die cut, just right where he's at. I've got a piece of purple tape. Low tack tape is good. I'm going to tape that die cut in place, wrap the tape around, making sure it adheres to the actual card base. Then I can remove everything else that I don't need. So that back panel and the actual little colored raccoon. Then I'm going to just line this back up, making sure that that tape is nice and straight, putting him in the center. And then I'm going to add one more piece of tape on the bottom part of the raccoon die because I don't want that wiggling around. Then I'm opening up my card base completely and running that through my die cut machine, and then we will have the nice little raccoon die cut. As you can see there, that's all done, and he will just fit right in there. The little scene will be on the inside, and the front's actually going to be pretty clean and simple. So as you can see, that's how that will look from the front. Now let's put the scene together. I've got the grass here. I'm just going to adhere that down and trim off the excess from the sides, or excuse me, the one side. And then we're going to add the parts to make this tree. I'm going to add that piece of wood plank off of the edge because I don't need it to be that thick. And then I'm just going to trim it right next to the card panel. You could just trim this down without doing it this way and then adhere it down. Either way works fine. And then we have all of these clouds from the Wispy Clouds die that I'm just going to start adhering. And I'm overlapping them, making sure to not see that straight edge on the cloud. I want everything to feel big and fluffy like it would on a good spring or summer day or probably a summer day when you have a full tree. So I'm just making sure everything lines up and looks good. If this was on the front of my card, I would definitely add foam tape behind some of these pieces to give it a lot more dimension. But really, this feels very full. So some of the parts I'm going to add some liquid glue to really make sure it is stuck down. And then I'm going to finish off a little piece at the top with a little tiny little tree piece because the corner edge was just sticking out just enough. Finishing with the little bits of glue, and then again I'm going to trim this excess off as well. And once I do, it's totally going to look like a tree. It's almost like it's magic when all of this excess stuff goes away. So now that that's all trimmed off, take a look, and that's a cute little tree. Now I'm going to adhere that panel inside of this card base. Again, I trimmed this down smaller so it'll have a nice little white frame on the inside. I'm going to adhere this in place, and I'm not going to add any glue behind my raccoon yet. I tucked him in the grass and then closed the front, and I'm just using a sharp tool, or your fingers work fine, and I'm just kind of sliding him around to where he fits perfectly in the die cut opening on the front of the card. Now that he fits perfect, I'm holding him in place and just adding a couple dots of liquid glue to make sure he does not wiggle and move. And then when you close it, you've got that cute little raccoon. Now I am using the honey die, and it has 3 dies in it. You've got the smaller, it goes smaller to larger, like with the shadow dies behind the first word, honey. So I took the second largest shadow die and I die cut that from black cardstock, and then just the nice scripty word honey out of white cardstock, using some liquid glue to adhere those 2 pieces together. And this is going to be on the front of the card. I'm doing this in black and white, keeping it kind of similar with the raccoon. On the inside of the card, I'm stamping the sentiment that says, "You've stolen my heart." This comes in the "You've Stolen My Heart" stamp set. I'm stamping that just with some black ink right onto that grass. Now that that's done, we've got our sentiment on the inside, and I'm going to add these cute little bees. Remember, I colored these earlier. This is from the Beehive stamp and stamp set. It has a coordinating die with it. So I colored those with Y1538 and B0000 for the wings. I'm using their little flight trail, or I'm stamping their little flight trail with black ink. And I'm just using a scrap piece of paper to make sure I don't stamp that onto my white cardstock, although that bottom one would have been really cute had I stamped a trail all the way along the inside of the card. That would have been darling. Now I'm going to adhere the honey sentiment to the front. So the whole sentiment says, honey, you've stolen my heart. So I'm adhering that down. I'm going to come in with some of the Tuxedo clay hearts. They're black and white on the front. Again, keeping it kind of simple, other than you can see a little bit of the grass that the raccoon is tucked in and his red heart. But I really wanted to keep that front part of the card very simple. And then you open it up and you've got this great little surprise on the inside. Now I've used a black glaze pen to the eyes of the bees and the raccoon, as well as the raccoon's nose. Then I'm using the white gel pen for highlights on the tree itself, also on the bees, and some little highlights on the raccoon as well. I like that kind of detail. It just finishes these images off, in my opinion. You definitely don't have to do that, but I think it looks really, really good. Then I'm going to come in and finish with the Kiss Me clay hearts, adding a little bit more color to the inside of the card. That little pop of red is really fantastic with the blues and the greens. Just using some liquid glue to adhere those. And now we've got this great little card, super clean on the front, and then a wonderful, sweet scene on the inside. It's very cheerful, it's very bright. I want to thank you guys so very much for watching, and everything that I've used for this card is listed and linked below. Thanks so much. Bye.